During the empty nest period, should you choose divorce? Let's look at the analysis of a marriage therapist. A couple has been married for more than 20 years. Since their only son went abroad to study, the couple lost their focus and had to face their relationship. The tension in their relationship caused a marital crisis. The husband is a businessman and the wife is an accountant. The traditional idea of husband is male supremacy. He uses his authority to maintain his status as the head of the family. He has a manipulative personality and is accustomed to speaking his mind. Because he is the boss, it is easy for him to treat mother and son the same way he treats his subordinates. The wife tries her best to accommodate her husband in everything to avoid arguments and conflicts. She maintains the marriage mainly for the sake of her son. The wife discovered that her husband was having an affair early on. Even though he stepped back from the brink, the relationship never seemed to be in harmony and the crisis was already lurking. The couple has lacked communication and emotional exchange for a long time. The two parents-in-law have always transferred their emotions to their son, and the son has become the bridge between them. The wife and son are closer and form an alliance. The husband is indifferent to his wife and avoids communicating with her. The son seems to be protecting his mother and sometimes fights back on her behalf. His relationship with his father is also alienated and he dislikes his father's strict control. Even though her husband appears to be very authoritative in the family, the mother and son are afraid of falling into a trap and try their best to please him. However, the mother and son hide many things, let alone confide their concerns to this grown man. As a result, the husband becomes the loneliest member of the family. The wife comes from a complicated family. She does not want to repeat the same mistakes and tries her best to maintain a complete family. This is a psychological projection. Even though she felt she was a victim and felt aggrieved, she remained submissive and hoped that her husband would change. She tolerated his temper and domineering personality and failed to develop a consistent communication pattern inside and outside. The son has grown up, has an open mind, understands how to consider the mother's perspective, and agrees with her filing for divorce. The wife will undoubtedly have less burden of custody rights, but she still felt very conflicted. On the one hand, she was exhausted mentally and physically, and wanted to start the second half of her life and live a free and unrestrained life. But on the other hand, she could not bear to break up the family she had built with her own hands. She still had feelings for her husband, and leaving her husband made her guilty. She felt guilty, and she was worried about being without a partner in her old age. So she wanted to maintain the marriage reluctantly, and was very entangled in her heart. "You have endured enough." These words deeply touched my wife's heart, and she couldn't help crying. Because of a quarrel, the wife finally decided to muster up the courage to run away from home and live a free single life. The wife absolutely has the financial ability to leave her husband and be independent, but she only tolerates her husband because she is always worried about her son. The wife now knows how to take care of her own needs, but the sudden separation made the husband instantly confused and panicked, and he repeatedly urged his wife to go home. In fact, the husband is not a callous person, and he still values his wife in his heart. It's just because of the traditional male character and poor rhetoric that the wife feels sad and angry. The husband and wife have been accustomed to not dealing with the grudges between them for a long time, focusing most of their energy on their son, and unknowingly transferred the problems between the husband and wife to the son. The son becomes involved in the relationship and plays a mediating role, becoming the object of relieving the tension in the relationship between the husband and wife, forming an iron triangle relationship. This family interaction model may affect the son's emotional relationship and views on marriage. A famous American marriage therapist and professor pointed out that avoidance of communication is one of the interaction patterns that leads to the breakdown of marriages. The husband avoids his wife's emotional needs and only cares about his son. The wife avoids direct conflict and remains silent. As a result, she suppresses many true words, creating a vicious cycle. 3 feet of ice is not frozen in a day, and grudges will grow bigger and bigger like a snowball. When a high cold wall is built between two people, they will become the most familiar strangers to each other. Marriage therapists point out that problems between couples stem from an imbalance of power and control. The husband's traditional patriarchal thoughts are quite out of touch in today's society that advocates equality between men and women. coupled with the continuous improvement of women's economic and social status, wives have developed a belief in the balance of power. Husbands need to learn to examine the impact of personal power control on the marital relationship. Influence, re-examine one's own traditional patriarchal ideas. Parents need to learn to adapt to the empty nest period and return their attention to the relationship between the couple. Now that the couple has separated, it's an opportunity to reflect on themselves and examine the couple's rigid interaction patterns. Will the wife's consistent response strategy of pleasing her condone her husband's manipulative behavior? Is the husband's personality overly anxious, which leads to his tendency to manipulate his family? If a couple chooses to divorce, both parties should examine their personal needs and the impact of divorce on themselves, their son, and even other family members. Reach an agreement on their son's best welfare and financial arrangements, and try to find a win-win solution. If both parties choose to bury the hatchet, then they both need to show goodwill, reflect on their own responsibilities for avoiding communication, learn to recommunicate, recognize the core problems of the past relationship, find ways to rebuild mutual trust and intimacy, and reconcile each other's feelings. The other half's expectations, learning to be grateful and appreciative of each other, can embark on the road to reconciliation.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.